Hey, it's Les and Randy here from the TV Dudes.
Oh.
We, this year, we're lucky enough to get to go to Austin Film Festival. This feels like an uptick in us attending more stuff. I feel like this had to have come from us making a good showing at ATX Fest the last few years.
Right.
It's the Austin Film Festival is also run by Sunshine Sachs, so it's some of the same
PR people,
background PR people, and I really felt like I was surprised we got press passes into this.
I was too. This was a big deal.
Only because we are not film dudes.
No. Yeah, and that's the thing. When I got in late because Grant was just overscheduled and didn't have any time.
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of time, but I had a little bit. And looking at it, I was like, oh, there's panels and stuff. Like, I could do this.
This thing gets billed as Austin Film Festival, like, the Writers Camp or the Writers Festival.
Right.
And it really is. I think I definitely complained a little bit during our Fantastic Fest. During our Fantastic Fest coverage, I had complained a little bit about not going to film festivals very often and really being spoiled from ATX Fest where I was expecting more panels.
Yeah.
Going to movies is a weirdly isolating thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so a festival for it is just odd for me. Like
some people
I don't need to do this. I do this alone.
Some people, that's their thing. They like to go and see, like, how many movies can I see in a week?
I would rather do that alone. Like I'm totally fine with like entering that competition. I just want to do it from my couch.
Right. Fair. Yeah.
Because it's not a shared experience for me.
Yeah.
So the panels and stuff are a little bit more of a reason for me to go to have a festival.
Right.
So ATX Television Fest is obviously one end of that extreme where it's almost all panels and then some screenings that are kind of in order to set off a panel, basically.
Yeah.
And then there's Fantastic Fest, which is just movies.
Right.
Austin Film Fest is half between those. So it's like 11 days long. 7 of those days, though, or it's like a week long, but most of it is movies.
Movies at various theaters around town. Yeah.
Which is what's happening like right now. Like tonight is still going.
Yeah.
The first 4 days are basically just panels.
Yeah.
There are movies being shown throughout there as well.
Sure.
Basically, some of the panelists are getting their premieres and stuff, but it's a lot of panelists, and it's a lot of people that aren't. It's not celebs. It's not the actors from the show. This is the whole writers' room, or the showrunners come to talk about their shows, so there was a lot of panels of like breaking into Hollywood, marketing your script.
When I went to the panels, I noticed there was a lot of assumptions that everyone in the room was trying to break in. There was a lot of assumptions that everybody here is a novice writer trying to break in.
The sweat flop desperation coming off of some of these rooms. I went to the Breaking Into Hollywood panel.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I am also a burgeoning screen. Everybody in that room has got half a screenplay somewhere in a drawer. And it just was coming off people in waves.
What's interesting for me is and I found this very fascinating because I would have loved that kind of thing when I was in my 20s and trying to figure shit out. I'm 47, man. I have a small business and a family. I love the idea of working in a TV writer's room. I have fully accepted that is never going to happen.
Yeah. Where I want to go with my own writing and screenplays and stuff. I have a plan for what I want to do in the next few years with this, and it is similar to what a lot of the other folks in this room were, but it was a really weird feeling of looking around at some of these panels and going, here are the other 200 people that want this job.
Yeah.
Also, this was I sat through we found out about this press pass a little bit last minute. It was a little bit later in the announcement than I had expected. So I had just done Fantastic Fest, and then I had just been out of town for about a half a week.
Yeah.
And it was really difficult for me to clear my schedule to go to as much AFF stuff as I wanted. I think next year I will probably try to plan that a little better.
Same. I would have liked I had 1 day to plan, and that is not – I need more playing time than that. But that said, I did get to see a couple panels I really liked.
So I saw the Breaking Into Hollywood panel, which was a lot of fun. I like that ATX Fest is at the Intercontinental as a hub more than the Driscoll. The Driscoll was a little cramped in every room I was in.
The Driscoll was crazy, although
and a little warm in every room I was in.
I kind of liked it as a staging ground because it feels exciting. Like when you go pick up your badge, I'm like, man, this place is hopping.
Yeah, it does feel really high. It just there's a lot of people in a lobby.
Yeah.
But the Breaking Into Hollywood panel, they had all these people were asking questions about okay, so great, I've got a script written. How do I get it in front of anyone?
Yeah.
Like anyone in Hollywood. And this is the reson why these people paid to be at this fest is to be in a room with these aren't famous names, but this is every writer that you would want to try to get your script. Or the Breaking Into Hollywood panel had an agent up there who was talking about being an agent and what he looks for and stuff. And I realized all these people are asking how they can do the interviews that we do on this show.
Yeah.
Like I had a moment of like, I should just fade out of this room.
I had a few of those too. Where I'm taking up space for somebody who probably needs this information more than me.
I saw Scott Rosenberg speak, who wrote Con Air, Beautiful Girls. I think one of the initial drafts of High Fidelity. He's a huge screenwriter.
Yeah.
And he also happened to create Happy Town.
Yeah.
So I just spoke with him.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 weeks ago, I had about 30 minutes on the phone with Scott for my next season of Good Die Young. So after I watched his panel, which was super fun, and he said a lot of really cool stuff that I took to heart, I walked up and was like, hey, man, I just wanted to meet you. We spoke, and he remembered me.
Yeah.
It was like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But what he said to me was like, oh, man, yeah, that was great to put a face with you. Did my office ever help you get a hold of the cast from Happy Town?
Right.
And I was like, yeah, we're still working. He's like, well, you've got my email, right? I'm like, yeah. And so we shook hands and parted, and like, I looked around, like the two people standing on either side of me, there's so much side eye.
Yeah.
Like, they were waiting to talk to Scott Rosenberg too, only my entire conversation with him was like, hey, what's up? Yeah, man. Like, and I kind of backed up, was like, I feel super cool and also really stupid simultaneously. I'm going to back out of this room and just go home.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to be there with a different point of view. Like, I think it was more fun for both of us because I went to one of the ones I went to is Writer's Room Dynamics. It was, how does a writer's room work? What's the etiquette? And I want to go because I'm a fan of TV and I'm curious what a writer's room looks like. These guys want to go because they want to know, how do I get into that fucking room?
So every question, like the Breaking in Hollywood panel, they joked that like, I love this panel because it's the subtext of every question.
Yeah.
Like,
and the funny thing is, I left before they asked the questions because I was trying to get my next panel. So I didn't need the questions. But when they were talking, everything they were saying, they would preface it with something like, well, and here's something you want to know, something you never want to do. And they knew everybody in that room wanted the jobs. But the list of panelists, like, the person who's most talkative was Andrea Sinave, I think Cianave, something like that. She's a TV writer and playwright. She's worked on The Mayans, The Path, Copper, and she is clearly like she's a friend of Tom Fontana. Like she held court in that room, and then there was this guy David Iserson who was hilarious, who wrote for Mr. Robot and Mad Men, and who just wrote and produced The Spy Who Dumped Me. Amy Johnson, who's written for like Tyrant and is writing Night Flyers with George R.R. Martin. And then this guy, Ray Uternicht, who writes for Legends of Tomorrow and who's worked with Greg Berlanti on The Tomorrow People and that kind of thing and worked on Person of Interest. And this dude, I could tell watching this dude, I'm like, that guy could be friend. I could be friends with this guy. Like this is a guy based on what he's worked on, based on what he likes. Like I could talk to this dude. It's not the room, not the place we're in, but like, if I talk to him, I'm not going to go up to him and find out, hey, how do I get in the writer's room for Legends Tomorrow? I want to be like, hey, what's your comics industry? I'm curious what the comics you read. What are you guys trying? How do you get all the Easter eggs? Like, who puts the Easter eggs in there? Like, all the questions I want to ask him.
Yeah, what's handed to you? What framework's handed to you, and what do y'all get to spitball?
Were not the questions that these guys wanted to hear. And so, I was just making notes of like, oh, I should talk to Les and get him to talk to this guy because I know Les will ask the questions.
And so I feel like that was kind of our secret weapon on some of the interviews that we got. So I got 4 interviews. The only 2 interviews that I absolutely wanted to get were really the only 2 reasons on the schedule that we should be there. Obviously, we're not film dudes. This is a film fest, but Netflix Friends from College had their season 2 premiere. And Counterpart from Starz had its season 2 premiere.
Oh.
So 2 TV shows. I definitely wanted to push for those. So we did, and so our Counterpart interview is already out. I spoke with Justin Marks and Aaron Levy.
You had talked with them before, probably.
I had talked to Amy Berg.
Oh, okay.
Who was not part of the show anymore, and I don't know the story behind that. But I gathered that there's some kind of backlot drama there.
Okay.
I was told to not
ask about it.
Not ask about it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Which I didn't. That's not. I'm not TMZ. That's not what I care.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, like. I felt like when I sat down with these folks that people were astonished that I wanted to know about their current project and that it wasn't a gotcha interview about the one famous thing that they had done. Or like Friends from College. I got to sit down with Nicholas Stoller and Francesca Del Banco. They're a husband and wife team that make that show. Nicholas Stoller just did Storks. He wrote both Muppet movies. Neighbors, a lot of Apatow stuff, forgetting Sarah
Right.
Marshall. Like, there's a lot of his career. Basically, everything else in his career is more famous than Friends from College.
Right.
But I was there to talk to them about that.
Yeah.
And not, but I could, you can feel it in all of the panel groups. Like, there's a point where the questions hit, and either Austin's usually better about them
Somewhat
really being
better, yeah,
questions
yeah.
and not just being a fucked up statement about
Right.
someone literally just made a statement about the Venom movie of like to Scott Rosenberg with like Rosenberg wrote the first draft of that. He is not,
man.
I mean, he's not even who finally took that movie home.
Yeah.
And it's not his fault that it doesn't involve Spider-Man.
Right.
But like this dude just literally made I kind of wondered how y'all were going to handle that. Like,
Yeah.
that's not a question, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Austin's better than most for those, but the questions that do get asked are very much barely veiled. Like,
Please hire
what
me.
do I do to break
Yeah,
in? Like,
yeah.
let's say I've written 5 scripts, but I'm bad in the room. How do I get around that? Or stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
And so I felt like in our interviews, it was really fun. Like, these are already chill festivals where the people are very relaxed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I felt like talking to Justin Marks and Aaron Levy that like there are questions that y'all are expecting to be asked at a conference that is so heavily I want to break in.
By the way, the Chill Festival thing, I want to go back to that because one of the things we love about ATX Fest, and one of the things that ATX has done a really important
And
job
I don't feel like AFF is as chill as ATX Fest.
No, but I went to a panel. This was the other panel I went to, and I was trying to cover all TV stuff, but they had a panel that was Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, the writers of Avengers 4, of the Cap trilogy,
Yeah,
like
the overall scaffolding of the MCU.
the best writer, the guys who write the MCU, and their producer Michael Grillo, who has produced Avengers 4 and Avengers Infinity War and Ant-Man and Captain America Winter Soldier. And the panel was about how producers and writers work together. And on something like Marvel Cinematic Universe, I'm like, I am dying to hear that
know how
conversation.
this works, yeah.
And there was no way I wasn't going to that panel. So I did. And here's the thing. I got there a little early. There wasn't really much of a line. There was like 20
I was
people.
shocked the whole weekend with what was super full and what was dead.
I got into it was a room in the Driscoll. We get into this room. I would say the capacity was like 75 people, maybe. It wasn't full.
Wow.
I was stunned. And I think part of that is because people knew they're not going to give you spoilers about Avengers 4. This is going to be a discussion of the craft of writers versus producers.
Yeah.
And
I love the wonky mechanics of the panels.
It was great. Marcus and McFeely are hilarious guys. Grillo's a funny guy. They've clearly known each other forever. They've come up. These are guys who have been in the industry for a while. Marcus McFeely now basically they're a writing team. They only work together and they basically have their own studio to produce things. They are basically a mini Marvel. And they talked about sort of how lucky they are to be in this place where they their stuff gets greenlit and it gets developed and it goes to the screen. And they talked about that and they talked about Grillo talked a lot about the scheduling and how crazy it is to he's like, I have to get all these A-list actors onto the set at the same time for this one show. And he's basically I have a calendar that tells me what days people aren't available. And the little nuts and bolts stuff was fascinating, as well as hearing these guys talk about how they make certain things happen or where they get the germ of the idea from the comics, but what the story is about. And it was beautiful. It was
I can't
great.
imagine the interplay then of there's another set of writers and producers for each of those individual movies.
Right.
And they want to do their thing.
Yeah.
The mechanics and these panelists obviously knowing that they are in a place where the audience that did the people that did show up to that room want this.
Yeah.
So you're not glazing over your audience with because every once in a while I would hear a panelist say something and this is probably boring inside baseball. It's that's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
Inside baseball is the only baseball that anyone in this room gives a shit about.
Yep.
Yeah, I still ATX Television Fest is still hands down my favorite festival I've ever been to.
I've been to every year, and it's always something I look forward to, and they do something better than anybody else. But this was a lot of fun.
Having just gone to Fantastic Fest and realized I just don't like Film Fest as much as I thought I did.
Yeah.
This split the difference really well for me.
Yeah. I think what I would have liked to have done is I would have liked to have a little more warning so I could have blocked out some time and seen some more of the movies.
I also I know why they did it, but they had to use Galaxy Highland as one of the theaters.
Yeah.
Both movies I actually went to catch were at Galaxy Highland.
Oh, I thought some of the film people we knew were like into the Highland. Is it not?
No, I love it's a fine theater.
Yeah.
It's just way the fuck away from everything else.
Oh, right.
Like
yeah.
I'm much happier that my two movies were there rather than like Draft House Village.
Yeah, I was gonna
not
say,
Draft House Village.
The Draft House Lamar.
Yeah, or South Lamar or 6th Street, either one.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I like Galaxy Highlands Theater. I just didn't want to drive to Midtown.
Yeah, for me that's closer to me. That's north, so it would have been perfect. But I just didn't have time.
Yeah, I kept I'd finish an interview on the roof of the West and I'd have to run to my car and drive to go catch a movie.
Yeah.
But the interviews we got were friends from college. We talked to Stoller and Del Banco. There's a movie Fishbowl that screened, and I hope it gets distribution. It was a really kind of tone piece Virgin Suicides kind of vibe.
Sure.
I interviewed the brother sister team that made that as well as the writer. That was really an odd interview. They reached out to us, but oh my God, I had a fun conversation with them.
Yeah.
And the movie was really fun. Got to talk to Joe Carnahan, who wrote Smoking Aces, Narc, A-Team.
Yeah.
He has a movie the other movie I got to see, El Chicano, which will be out next spring, and everybody. I'm going to talk about El Chicano for the rest of my life. Everybody's going to need to see that movie. And then we also got to interview, obviously, Justin Marks, who wrote the Jon Favreau Jungle Book and is writing the Top Gun sequel.
Right.
He created Counterpart, and then we also spoke with Erin Levy, one of the writers who wrote the season 2 premiere of Counterpart. She has her Emmy, I believe, from Mad Men, from working on Mad Men.
Oh, okay.
There was another writer there from Counterpart, Gianna Sobel, but she didn't sit in on the interview. She was just on the panel.
You know something I've noticed about this and also ATX TV Fest, and this maybe, I don't know if it's Sunshine Sacks or if it's the people behind the festivals, but it's how casually diverse their panelists are.
I think they work on that. I think that's a conscious effort.
It's obviously done consciously, but I sit and I notice it, but I'm like, it's not like they went okay, we need this person, this person, this person. It's just clear that some thought was put into it, and so it's not just a bunch of white dudes up on the panels.
If nothing else, someone notices when they inadvertently have a panel full of white dudes. Somebody goes, wait.
And a lot of conventions and festivals do not do that.
Yeah.
A lot of them get heat for it because they don't pay any attention.
And that's the thing. The industry is slanted to be all industries pretty much are slanted to be mostly dudes and mostly white dudes.
Right.
And so if you aren't conscious of it through no malicious intent, you will accidentally do a whole convention of white dudes.
Yeah. And nobody needs that.
No, it really don't.
Except for the Republican Party.
Right. I love the stuff I did get to see. I wish I'd gotten to see more. Same with the interviews. I loved who I got to talk to. I wish we could have talked to more.
Yeah. This was a great first fest. I think when I first did ATX TV, it was the same way. It was a last minute thing, and I think I got to go to a few panels, and I was like, I need more of this.
Yeah, I think next year I'll be able to knock this out of the park. I really hope we get to go back.
That was how I felt about this year. I was like, this is a fantastic festival, not a fantastic fest, but a fantastic festival. And I really dug it, and it's well put together, and I would definitely love to see.
Really gotta if you were listening to this, you're definitely into wonky TV stuff, and if you are anywhere in the Austin area, Austin Film Festival is just some incredibly behind the curtain discussions. Yeah,
it was really done.
All right, well, that about wraps up our Austin Film Fest coverage.
Austin Film Fest dudes out.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Electric Sweater Podcast Network. We are exclusively listener-supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/TVDudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is by our friend and original TV dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and electricsweater.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.